you guys are about to get like a kind of a look into my mind because I'm gonna need your guys' help to help me answer a question that I've been struggling with for quite some time that relates to personal responsibility and accountability because I truly believe it's something that's been completely lost in this world in all aspects, from top to bottom. It's not specific to one gender, it's not specific to age, race, nationality. I truly believe that this has kind of become a more prevalent thing. For one reason or another, could be technology, could be that we're much more globally connected because of things like social media. So there's a more homogenized kind of, I guess, ideal or philosophies that get out there. But let me kind of get to the point. Sarcastic terrorism is something that comes up a lot, and I don't know that I believe in the concept and idea of it, or that I believe it's fair to blame an individual that is influential for saying or doing something and then like certain people act on that. By which I mean this. Let's say that I am a very important person, politician, whatever the case may be. I'm at like a podium talking, and I say, man, you know that one guy, I just don't like him. I'd probably hit him in the face as like a one-off comment. And somebody who supports me, they go and they punch that individual in the face. My question to you is, who do you blame in that situation? Do you blame me, the influential person with power who said something irresponsible, causing one of my constituents to go do something like that? Or do you blame the other person for being stupid enough to act upon something that they just heard, whether or not they support me? Or is it one of those situations where a percentage of the blame pie is divvied up between both of us, whether it's 50-50, 60-40, 70-30? This is essentially the question that I'm struggling with right now because I see people absolve themselves of responsibility and accountability in so many ways with the recent conversations that I'm asking. To the point that I'm gonna give an example that I still think is unacceptable, though I could argue with this one. This is probably a bit of an extreme example. Have you ever heard people say like I was young and I was dumb, like I was like 14, I was 16, blah blah X, Y, and Z? I don't really say that. I'm sure I've said it when I was younger, oddly enough. But usually when people ask me about my things about my youth and I talk about it, I will tell you that I was misguided and I will tell you that I had a lack of like focus and guidance. But I wouldn't have told you that I was dumb. I was never unintelligent. Whether I was 4 years old, 10 years old, 16, 19, 22, and today 29, I was never stupid. I was always highly intelligent. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but my mind is mentally sound and resilient, and I know how to think critically, which is why I get through so much of life the way that I do because of my brain. So, with that, even at 14, when I was breaking a girl's heart, I knew what I was doing, and I even apologized for that as I got when I got older. When it kind of came up, maybe sometimes sometimes you kind of rekindle a flame with somebody. Like I apologized for my actions and said it was unacceptable, and it's like, well, you were just in high school. Like no, I knew what I was doing. I knew it was wrong. I want to take responsibility for my actions because they were unacceptable. I don't care that I was young and was hormonal and developing. I wasn't stupid. I was never a follower amongst those things. And then I ask myself, I know other people like me or like that who can like take that type of responsibility, look at themselves truly in the mirror, look at the parts that are undesirable, do introspection and kind of improve and be like, hey, I wasn't always perfect kind of thing. Is that a trait or skill sorry, is that a trait that you're born with or a skill you can develop? Is it a mixture of both? I don't understand because I'll have a conversation with some young people, right? I know a young, wouldn't even call them couple, but they're having a baby. And both of them are trying to absolve themselves of responsibility. Where it's like, well, he, came inside me. And then he's like, well, she let me do it. And it's just like, at what point, like, do you not know how you were made? Do you not know how babies are created? Genuine question at this point. Like, do you not understand that? Even with all the contraceptives, um, birth control, condom and whatnot, nothing is 100%. There's no 100%. If you do this, it will not work. You won't have a baby. So, in my opinion, every single time somebody consciously decides to engage with in sexual activity with another person, Well, obviously for different genders, I'm sorry. Let me clarify that different genders, if you're a man and a woman, you know the possibility of pregnancy is real. And thus I go, how can one of them look at the other and say, A, it's your fault, or it's more your fault? I don't get that. Because I'll see a lot of men say, like, well, because she carries it for 9 months and abortion's a thing and there's first trimester stuff, right? She can get rid of it. And thus, if she decides to have it, it's really her choice. And I'm like, that is not moving me because you're patronizing and, or I would say you're infantilizing men at that point. He didn't know what he was doing. He slipped and tripped and fell and nutted in there. I'm not trying to hear that. You pay to play. And this, whether or not you think it's good, bad, or somewhere in the middle, these are the consequences of your actions. You need to pay for that. I don't understand absolving yourself like you didn't do it. Another one that I see is people like separating what they do online in the real world. Like they have a digital persona and avatar, but like what that person does is not indicative of who they are in the real world. That's another weird separating factor that I see, where it's like, oh, it was just for content or comedy or whatever the case is, and I'm like, but you still did what you did, and the impact that it may have had on people, whether it hurt their feelings or whatnot, are still felt and real. So how could you just be like, nope, I don't care, it doesn't matter? I don't get that. I don't get it. And I see it in so many different little aspects, and I'm just looking left, I'm looking around, and I'm like, what have we done in this weird self-worship narcissistic era where like nobody wants to take the blame for something that they did themselves? I don't get that. And then I ask you guys again. So like, let me like actually go to another example. I'm trying to remember what the other example was. I've listened to rap music my entire life, and I'm telling you, like, I'm talking like Eminem, 50 Cent. Not to say 50 Cent some like weird guy, but like 50 Cent talked about gang life and gang activities, having guns, chains, money, women, the whole thing. I've heard people talking about drinking lean, popping Zans, doing MDMA and all type of drugs. I listen to the music. I might rap the music. I in no way, shape, or form engage in any of those activities. In the sense, like I'm not a gangster. I'm not trying to, hurt anybody. I'm not from the streets. I'm not doing hard drugs. I'm not. Um, I didn't get a bunch of change because they had a bunch of change. Where chains. It's like I know some young men who are being influenced by music and they're doing things like popping Zans. I had a young lady told me that she'd been dealing with older guys because the younger guys in her age group can't even stay, firm. We're gonna say stay firm. They're having problems with ED. I'm like, why? She's like, yo, you know how much drugs these guys do? And some of them I see they like I'm like, where did you even get like codeine? Like what? I don't even understand. Like they're drinking and smoking and engaging in a lot of drug like behavior that is very self-destructive in themselves and their body. And when I asked them why they're like doing it, they were like, yo, it's just the culture, just that's your culture. And then with the women, you have like the hot girlness and like, listen, live your life, have fun and whatever. But it's like, look at the message that these like Cardi B and Meg types are disseminating amongst the women, and they're just out here kind of unruly, no guidance, twerking and shaking their butts everywhere. I think it's a little bit grotesque, and like, I'm a look, I'm a red blooded male, like, I'm a look. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, it's just so disgusting. I don't want to see it, but just like, what do you attribute to somebody who can listen to that music, love it, maybe in the right scenario at a club or something, dance to it, but engage in none of that actual rhetoric and behavior? Like that person, like, I do want to get married, I do want to have kids, but despite the fact that someone might say no, I don't want to do that. Like, what is that defining thingamajig? What is it? Is it an intangible? Like, how do you resist something like that? For somebody who's in an environment where a certain ideology and certain philosophy is prominent, prevalent, popular, but they decide to go against that, to counter that ideology, what is the thing that makes them mentally resilient enough to be like, this is cool, or more power to you, but that is not the path in which I wish to take? Do you get what I'm saying? I hope I'm making sense. Because sometimes I think I'm crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, if this is something I think about, and everyone's like, bro, what's wrong with this guy? It's obviously the guy who said at the podium. It's obviously the music industry. It's obviously whatever the case is. Like, I don't think it's not obvious. It's not obvious to me. It isn't. Like, I don't know. So I need your guys' help with this one because I really want to know what you think it is. So just to kind of reiterate and conclude this and bring it full circle and move on because I think I've been rambling long enough, right? The question that I've been struggling with relates to personal responsibility and accountability and people always absolving it and pushing it off to other people to the point that I truly believe if a person decides to play Grand Theft Auto Vice City, or San Andreas, whatever's one you like, five. Sorry, I'm old, right? And they're like, man, stealing cars and doing crime is awesome, and they go and engage in that behavior. Do you think it's right to blame Rockstar Studios, the people who made the game, or the creators, or not? Or do you blame that individual, or is it a mixture of both? Or are there some other variables that I am completely dismissing that play into this? Because I know socialization is a real thing. It's important. And your environment and the people around you will shape you and shape your psychology and your belief system in a lot of ways, right? But then again, I know people who will have their belief system challenged and adjust. Some people will just double down with the new information that's presented, and they're just like, what are the characteristics and traits and skills that make these people different? People who will follow the crowd and the herd and do whatever, or people who'll be like, I like the music or I like this game, but I do not wish to at all steal a vehicle for any reason under any circumstance. I hope that made sense. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to chime in on before I go, but like the video, subscribe again. Thank you guys for listening, and have yourselves a mighty fine day.